You are.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
you are Alexandra.
Yes.
Good, I'm Leo. There was some
Hi.
confusion. I thought you had scheduled for 1 o'clock.
Oh, no. So my apologies. I thought it was 1:30.
No problem. No problem. Um, okay, so how do you know Sherry? It was Sherry who recommended you, right?
Yeah, she is actually one of my best friends. So I've known her for over 15 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was actually just speaking with her a couple of seconds ago on WhatsApp
Oh, yeah.
regarding another issue. So, tell me about your business.
Well, I am a disability claims case manager. So I do insurance claims, and I've been doing it for 20 years now, and I definitely need a change. So I don't have a business.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're looking to start a business
Possibly something other than claims.
other than claims. Okay. Um,
And I've got experience. I did event planning before. I've worked with customs immigration, security, administrative duties with different companies. I've done some sales.
okay. I was just at a barbecue, and the people ran an event planning company and they were looking for people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so is that a space you might consider?
It is, but the issue is I have to be able to make the same as what I'm making now. I could maybe do the event planning on the side, but I'm a single mom and I need to have a certain income.
Yeah. No, I understand and appreciate the fact that you're a single mom and you need to make the income. Unfortunately, this job requires travel. Yeah,
Okay.
about 60% of the time, they told me.
Travel, where?
US, abroad,
Oh, yeah. I
yeah,
wouldn't be able to do that.
okay. Um, yeah, because they literally stage the events. Um, I'm imagining moving furniture and greeting guests
Yeah.
and and doing
Setting up.
yeah, setting
Yeah.
is a huge part of it. So okay, so maybe that doesn't work. Um, because they were insistent that 60% of the time you are traveling.
If I didn't have a child, I'd be 100% for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, there's got to be something else we can help you find. And you prefer to work remotely, correct?
Yes, that would be ideal, but I don't mind getting out of the home once in a while. I've been working from home since COVID, and I'm a very, very social person, outgoing, and I have not enjoyed working from home all the time.
Okay.
I
Okay.
work for Industrial Alliance. I don't know if you know that insurance company. It's the Elephant, IA,
Okay.
and no one wants to go back to the office. And we've got two offices in Toronto, and nobody seems to want to go back.
And you are the opposite. You want to go back. You want to
I
be,
wouldn't
you
mind
want
a
the
day or
social
two.
aspect.
A day or two a week would be good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I deal with 30 subcontractors. One of them is a headhunting company. So I'm sure with your experience we could place you somewhere. Um, so that's one of the ways we can help you.
Mhm.
The other way we could possibly help you is to start a business because I'm a firm believer that working for someone else is just making other people rich first.
I'm 100% in agreement with that. I'm really tired of working for big insurance companies. It's exhausting. It's a thankless job, and you don't get anywhere. Like I'm capped at 80,000 a year, and that's I see all my friends who are entrepreneurs soaring, and I just really feel stuck. And I need to start planning for my future and my retirement, my son's college or university.
Okay. How old is your son, by the way?
He's 12.
12. Okay. Um, I mean, we have clients that do very well. We have a contractor that only does $500,000 jobs, and his salary is well over $500,000.
Wow.
We have a mortgage broker that does $200 million a year. Even at 2%, that's still a shitload of money.
Hmm.
I mean, there are a number of businesses. I can recommend at least 5 businesses that you can start, $1 million businesses that you can start, and get it to $1 million in 12 months, 18 months.
But would that be able to be done part-time?
You could start part-time. We could hire people to run the business for you. I mean, well, let's put it this way. I have a client that runs a painting company, and he travels 7 or 8 months of the year surfing and playing beach volleyball. He owns a
Wow.
$4 million house. He has a $3.5 million cottage, and he travels 7 or 8 months of the year.
Mhm.
And he does everything online. He has great people to run the businesses for him. And he has quality of life. So whether you're traveling around
Yes.
the world or taking care of your kids, it's
Yeah.
really designing a business to be on autopilot.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the things we do, well, let's put it this way. I'll give you 3 examples.
Okay.
One of my clients, well, I'll give you an example in the roofing industry, and I'm not suggesting you get into the roofing industry because that's a horrible lifestyle,
Yeah.
a horrible business.
Yeah.
But I have one client that's been operating a business for 26 years. He's hovering around $2 million. 1 year, he made it to 2.2. I have another client who does $27 million. And how we met him was he had a job working for another roofing company. And one of my assistants says, well, when are you going to start your own business? Well, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I have a full-time job and so on. He's running a business now, $27 million business. And he started part-time. And he only jumped over when he doubled his salary.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third business, he runs a $65 million company, all 3 in the roofing industry. And what they have in common is obviously roofing, but they have different mindsets and different
Yeah.
expectations, right? And different expectations produces different systems and different strategies to produce different results. So, people keep talking about, I want to follow my passion. And I keep saying, that's bullshit.
Sherry told me about that because before I spoke to you, I said, I don't know what I want to do. And she said, Leo said it's not about finding your passion because the passion will come when you're making money. And I fully agree with that
Yeah.
because I certainly do not like insurance. It's depressing. I deal with people's problems all day. It's draining and exhausting. If I put that into something else, I'd be a millionaire. No kidding.
All right. My girlfriend is the same way. And by the way, she just moved to Mexico 2 days ago, and I'm
Oh
heartbroken
no.
because
Oh, so
she
sorry.
she I mean, she is a brilliant person, and she is more corporate than you are because she's been working. If she was in the private sector, she would be running a $50 million company by now. She is that brilliant. And she's run departments for American Express and top brands around the world. And she has, even though she's brilliant, she has not a self-esteem issue, but she has a confidence issue. She doesn't understand her value. Um, they throw money at her to keep her happy, but she is miserable. The job she has right now for a major company, they pay her $250,000 a year, and she does admin work because she doesn't know how to talk to them and say, this is bullshit. You can't pay me $250,000 and have me do admin work. That's ridiculous, right? And going back to this is important because I want you to understand this. Going back to when she was working for American Express, they valued her so much that she was put on a committee to really deal with the culture in the
Yeah,
company.
yeah.
So they put her on this committee, and we have been dating for 6 years. And I kept saying, well, you are on the committee. How can you complain about your job if you are the head of the committee?
It's because of the red tape.
Right. So she didn't understand the power that she had to change the culture. And the conversation we used to have all the time was women need to have 100% of the qualifications in order to apply for a job. A man only needs 60% of the qualifications to apply for the job, right? Those are true stats. Look them up on Google. And
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
this explains why the CEOs, even though there's a 50% male-female ratio in business, male CEOs are like
Make more.
90% to 10% because women don't have the self-esteem or the
Yeah.
confidence to say, I'm going to do this.
Or I'm asking for this much money. I've heard that too.
Right. And
Mhm.
the pay gap, again,
Yeah.
explains the fact that women don't like controversy. I freaking
Mhm.
love controversy.
I saw some of your videos.
Well, I've been thrown off LinkedIn 8 times. My profile has been canceled 8 times.
I couldn't find you on LinkedIn.
Now you know why. Okay. They've literally deleted my account 8 times. I keep trying to start new ones, even with different names, but somehow they find me.
Why though?
Well, that's a whole other story. But one of the reasons why my girlfriend moved to Mexico is because of the culture in Canada, because
Yeah.
of we are a communist country in Canada now. If
Mhm.
if you're not aware, if you're one of those sleepers, Canadians need to be aware that we are very close or we are there. The World Economic Forum, Trudeau, all this stuff happening, we are going to be a communist country. If you
Yeah.
look at, Venezuela as an example, the third
Mhm.
wealthiest country is now communist country. Um, we we are slipping, we are slowly giving away our rights. Bill
Yeah.
C-11 controls what you can and cannot say on the internet. So as soon as you stop freedom of speech, you're a communist country, right? So,
Mhm.
and that's, I've spoke with 3 people this morning who are saying, screw this, I'm out of here.
Oh, I know a few too. Costa
Okay.
Rica. That's where I'd go.
Mexico, Miami. Miami is not far enough. But what I'm trying to say is, I feel bad for women.
Me too.
I feel bad for women in many ways because they are cheated in the pay gap, they are cheated in business, they are cheated in romantic relationships,
And with raising children.
and we're raising children. Um, so, and the funny thing is, I don't have too many female clients because I'm rude and obnoxious, and women cannot take it. Okay, so that was a
Mhm.
warning to you.
I heard it and
Yeah.
I read it. I saw your interview with Kim, is it Andis? Where you said you didn't hire women's CEOs or didn't have many women that you had respect for.
Maybe that's hopefully that's out of context because I truly respect women.
Mhm.
I do. The problem is I love women. I'm not sure that I love women in business.
Yeah, that was more the message.
Right. Because
Yeah.
women in business treat themselves as subservient.
I don't know about that. You've met my friend Susan Hobson, an old friend of Sherry's.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
She's a very good friend of
Butt
mine.
heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a very strong woman and she's doing very well for herself.
Okay, good. But
Very
she
well.
is the exception, correct?
And Sherry, I think Sherry's doing well for herself. And another friend that you have been speaking to, Nicole at Tennessee, the auto business car dealerships.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of female friends that are doing quite well for themselves. Yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. So what do you think of joining the entrepreneurial world then?
Well, I do think it's interesting. It's just, as I said, I need to know what's involved up front, right? As far as the time commitment, what's expected, um, cost affiliated with that, our investment, and what type of work would it be?
Well, I would give you choices. Um, in terms of investment, it's either you put in sweat equity or you put in a lot of money. Okay. Or a
Yeah.
combination of the two, some sort of combination of the two. But if you put more investment in terms of the design of the business, then
Mhm.
you need less sweat equity and less investment to
Mhm.
run the business. So to me, it's all about creating the systems and creating the strategy and
The
using proven
blueprint.
strategies instead of hard work. I don't believe in hard work. I believe in smart work.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
does that make sense so far?
Yep. I read that about your recipe and blueprint.
Okay.
I'm going to be straight up with you. I'm not in a position to financially invest, but putting in the work I could do. But as I said, I need to know what we'd be looking at with expectations for hours.
Um, again, if 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 you had a full-time job, I would suggest keep your full-time job,
I
keep your
have to.
salary as long as possible. And when you at least come to meeting your salary, then jump over.
Hmm.
Some people is double your existing salary because there's still a risk, right?
Yep.
96% of companies fail, which means they never see their 10th birthday.
Hmm.
But keep in mind, in 40 years, I've had two failures. Okay.
Wow.
So 40 years, I've had two failures. And I talk more about the failures than I do about the successes, because I believe we can learn more on the failures than we can the successes. And we'll talk ad nauseum about those failures because you need to know why they failed. And it's usually mindset. It
Hmm.
has very little to do with exterior factors. It's
Yep.
usually mindset. So in terms of time commitment, that is hard to say. Um, what I'm going to suggest is we need to have a budget. Pick a number. I'm going to say a minimum of $10,000 to be invested over time.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I would suggest, and these are the same things that I suggest to all my clients, is that you're too expensive. If you're earning $80,000 a year, you're too expensive to be doing a lot of the stuff that you need to do. So you should have at least 1 to 3 assistants doing the stuff that you shouldn't be doing, like answering emails, being on LinkedIn, connecting with stepping stone relationships, creating future relationships, creating future clients that you're going to need 1 to 5 years from today. So it's really designing your future, and that could be done by someone in the Philippines who is trained well, who has an English degree,
Mhm.
and who gets paid roughly $500 a month. Okay.
Mhm.
So the work has to be done, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you doing it, but you have to supervise. Okay. So if you can spend 1 to 3 hours a day supervising, I would say that would be the minimum. And I would say 7 days a week. By the way, I'm recording this so I can send you a recording so you don't have to take notes. I know people love taking notes, but just so you know.
I would still take notes regardless.
Okay. That's how I tend to put information in my brain, and I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So tell me about your job. How many hours are you working a week? How much pressure is in your job?
Oh, a lot of pressure. We have about fluctuating between 70 and 80 claims, long-term disability. I work about 45 hours a week, I would say.
Okay.
And continuous emails, phone calls, reviewing medical records, dealing with lawyers, interviewing claimants, reviewing all the medical records and like analyzing them and making decisions on whether people are approved for long-term disability. So that includes psychological, physical, and dealing with rehab consultants as well, um, to determine level of disability and whether they can return to work and how we can assist them with return to work as the ultimate goal. But of course, in cases that are prolonged and severe, like cancer patients, we have to, give them their space. But the mental health ones are really difficult, especially since COVID. They've really increased to about 70% of the claims. So it is quite draining listening to people all day about their problems and then them calling you and crying, and it's quite stressful. And then you have to do things within compliance, so a certain number of days, and then it's just an influx of continuous new claims, medical, legal letters wanting to sue if we don't approve, and it's a lot of pressure.
Okay. Is there any retraining involved with,
Retraining for
yeah, if someone's really stressed out, mental stress in the current job, do you help them or find another job with less stress? Is that an option or?
No, well, what we will do is we will get the medical and determine what their restrictions and limitations are. And then whether they can go back to their own occupation, which they're currently on claim for. And if they don't want to, if they feel that they can't, then we sometimes provide services to help them with their resume, job interviewing, job search assistance.
Okay.
We don't pay for training. Sometimes if it's, for example, a guy that broke his hip, he's waiting for surgery, it's coming to the change of definition, which is after 24 months. They have to be totally disabled from performing any occupation after 24 months. Then we do something called a TSA, which is a transferable skills analysis, taking into account their education, training, and experience. And we see what other occupations are identified that they can do within their restrictions and limitations. So we can maybe help with computer upgrading skills, but that's usually free through a local library, or give them like an early payout with the amount that it would cost for a course or a program, or
Okay.
help them with job search assistance.
Okay. This might sound like a crazy idea, but I may have a business idea for you.
Oh,
Could you switch to the other side of the table?
advocating for the claimants?
Yeah. Could you start a
Yeah,
business because you have a lot of insider information, right? You know how insurance companies work. You know how
I've worked for
insurance
about
companies,
5 different insurance companies, so
you know how
yeah.
insurance companies like to rip off their clients in a lot of cases. So could you switch tables, switch the other side of the table and advocate and consult for the client?
Yeah, there are positions that do that, but I want to get away from that altogether. I
Altogether?
really am
Okay.
done with
You
it
want a
because
clean slate, new industry? Okay.
it's just it's dealing with a lot of really shitty stuff, people's health and mental health, and it's like constantly pulling teeth with the claimant or with us.
Mhm.
Like today I'm trying to advocate for someone, and my boss is just downright, no, you need this, and this. The woman's hospitalized with mental health issues. Come on, just approve beyond this point. We can get the medical, but just take that stress off her, which is causing her partially to be in the hospital, is us, you know?
Yeah,
And
that's
another woman who has cancer and it's like a pre-existing condition with a new policy, older lady. And then I have to be the one to tell her she's not, oh, you're not covered. I just want out of that, you know?
okay. All right. So you want something where you're
Happier.
helping people, you're making
Hmm.
people happy.
Hmm.
Okay. Which is the opposite of what you're doing right now in
Yeah.
some cases. Okay. So a number of things come to mind, but let me give that some thought. Um, I'm sure I can come up with 5 or 6 different ideas. A lot of these ideas are going to come from the construction renovation industry. One of the
Mhm.
thoughts would be, if I were in your shoes, I would start a well-branded, well-marketed, well-designed painting service, where you can grow it to 1 million, 5 million very quickly,
Mhm.
especially if you franchise the concept. How do you feel about franchising?
Well, that would be a big step. I would need to first
I'm
understand the
talking 2 or
basics.
3 years down the road.
Yeah, sure. Mhm.
Okay. So painting, I think there's a great need for it. And there's a lot of competition, but there isn't a
There
lot of
is.
well-designed businesses.
Mhm.
Um, the only well-designed business that I can rhyme off the top of my head is Wow One Day Painting, and they are close to $100 million company.
I
So,
was just thinking of them when you said that. I was thinking, I see the wow, and I always think that's a great business.
right.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the type of concept that we would look at and design for you. And the other thing is we have concepts called business in the box, because like fine wine needs to age, a business and social media needs to age as well.
Yes.
Um, and when it's aging, it's building credibility and it's building trust. And when you buy a business in the box, you're already on rung number 5 on the business ladder instead of on the ground level. So a business in the box might be something that you look at, but generally those are in the 50,000 plus range,
Yeah.
unless we finance something like that. The other concept that is coming to mind is with a contractor, and I might partner. Are you open to partnerships?
It depends on the person, right?
Um, the concept,
Personalities. I
yeah,
get along with most people, but I always hear horror stories. I do
yeah,
hear of a lot of horror stories.
yeah, and I'll give you one. My first partnership cost me $7 million. So, but it was through stupidity and poor contract, right, or poor working design. But I can give you a lot of other scenarios where combining forces and bringing 2 different strengths together can really
Mhm.
help a partnership. Like we can train you on the business aspect of the business. He runs day-to-day operations, and the concept is contractor for a day concept. Um,
Oh.
because there's a lot of especially real estate agents, and by the way, the business that I mentioned, the painting business, the reason why he can travel 7 or 8 months of the year is because 95% of his work comes from real estate agents. So he has regular clients that feed him a lot of business, and he's not going out there to sell a new client every day. He
Mhm.
does what we call stepping stone relationships. Contractor for a day utilizes the same concept, because when a house is listed for home, there's always a door that needs to be fixed, a window needs to be fixed, a room needs to be painted, whatever it is. And you bring in that contractor before the home inspection, before the staging, and again, you're utilizing the same relationships over and over again. You build trust with them, and you get a
Mhm.
ton of business from these real estate agents, the top real estate agents. So that's another concept that I would ask you to think about, and you can meet the people and see how they
Yeah.
work and stuff like that.
Well, I will say I live in a pretty good area. I live in, if you're familiar with Toronto area, Yonge and Lawrence.
Okay, yeah.
And there is a ton of renovations being done, remodels, rebuilds, tear downs, houses for sale, upgrading. And I am friends with two local realtors here. And I've also got another friend that's a realtor, two other friends that are realtors, close friends.
All right.
Yeah.
So I would make a phone call to those people and say, how big is your trusted circle? If they're really successful, they have a Rolodex of contractors, home inspectors, all those
Yeah.
people. You have to surround yourself with great people to recommend and help your clients.
Yeah.
So if they're that type of people, they're going to have a Rolodex. You just need to be part of that Rolodex. All right.
Yep.
So I'm sure I can come up with a few other ideas to create, $1 million business for you within 12 to 18 months.
Wow. So how many hours would that require?
Well, again, this is you
The
working.
same?
Yeah, this is you working full-time at your job, working part-time with the assistant. Again, we'll set up everything, and you just monitor what you need to monitor, right? You'll have access to QuickBooks. You'll understand exactly what's going on in the business. At lunchtime, between breaks, even though you're at your office in the insurance company, you can still check, QuickBooks, see what's going on, and bounce back and forth. So are you okay with that?
That's another issue I have is I'm not good with math or accounting.
You don't need to be, because QuickBooks does all the math for you. When you set up the searches, again, we'll show you how to do the searches, how to compare an actual to budgeted. It's easy. If a job was supposed to take 5 hours, and you're already at 4.5 and you still have another 2 hours to go, there's a problem, right? And QuickBooks would send you a red flag saying, something's wrong.
Really?
And
Wow.
you would call Mark and say, hey, Mark, what's going on? How can I help you? Right? One of my guys just fell off the ladder. He went home, or whatever it is. By the way, that doesn't happen very often.
Who covers the insurance for these workers, contractors?
Well, don't worry about that. That was a bad example.
Now you've got my insurance hat on.
Yeah. But error in emissions insurance is part of what you need to do. It's part of the business blueprint if you decide to go in that direction. So the idea is to design a business on autopilot that needs very little supervision, right? And that's why a partnership makes sense. Because if you hire someone to do that, generally the salary is much higher. Actually, going back to the 26-year-old roofing company, he hired a guy. He pays them, half decently, but he's a general manager. He runs the business for him, right? So I don't think he spends more than an hour or two a day running a $2 million business.
And is there any online businesses?
On HR, that's one of the businesses that I'm starting, because I'm sick and tired of giving those leads out and getting nothing in return. So I should tell you that I own shares in 19 different companies, and one of the companies that I'm starting is a bookkeeping company because small business owners are being screwed royally because bookkeepers just don't give a shit. Or
I saw that in your video.
Yeah, they don't know how to help these people. So bookkeeping is definitely one of them. Leasing is another one because these people need to lease trucks all the time and equipment and forklifts and stuff. And the third one is definitely headhunting.
Yeah.
Because, I keep hearing horror stories that, most headhunting companies never honor their 3-month guarantee. So if you're
Oh,
going to make a guarantee, you have to honor it, or else don't offer the guarantee. Offer
yep.
a discount for a replacement employee or something, right? So
Mhm.
the differentiation. If you've listened to a lot of videos, I talk a lot about differentiation. Differentiation is crucial to any business. You gotta be
Yeah.
head and shoulders above your competition, because if you're not, then you're just like everybody else, and you're going to struggle like everybody else. So we focus on the first 6 months is differentiation, branding, marketing, culture within the company. Those are all key points that you have to be very passionate about, or else you're going to fail.
I believe that. Yeah.
I don't want to get too deep into this because I don't want to get into information overload because it's a real danger. So all I want you to think about is, what's my lifestyle going to look like if we help you find a job? What's my lifestyle going to look like if I own a business 2 years from today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I know that it's drudgery, having your job, but you do have a job. I
Yeah.
request you keep it.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. And don't lose it until you find a replacement position or your business is doing really well and
Yeah.
proven the concept.
Mhm.
Okay.
Very good. Yes. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
I will send you the recording. Um, may I ask a favor?
Sure.
May I ask that you watch the recording with Sherry?
Yep. What about with Susan?
With Sherry.
Okay.
There's a reason why I'm asking you to do that.
Okay.
Sherry will understand why, and if she wants to explain it to you, she can, but sit down with her.
Sherry's the best. Yeah. I love Sherry.
Okay. If you
Yeah.
have, let's book another call, because momentum is crucial, because there's a real danger to getting to information overload, and you're the type of person to do a lot of research based on how many videos you've already watched. So I'm already getting an idea what your management style is. And by knowing your management style, we can predict what future mistakes you're going to make, and thereby making sure that the business blueprint is set up to make sure you don't make those mistakes. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And this is why management style and history and looking at previous experience to say, okay, what can we learn from this and how can we use this to predict?
Mhm.
Okay. So schedule
Yeah.
another call no more than 2 days from today.
I won't be seeing Sherry. I'm going away for the weekend.
No, that's fine. So schedule it early next week. If you see
Okay.
Sherry and you have this conversation 2 weeks from today, that's fine. There's no
Yeah.
urgency there. The only concern that I have between you and I is momentum.
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree. Yeah.
So schedule it for as early next week as possible, and let's have another conversation. And watch the video a couple of times and make some notes. Make some notes about your fears. Okay, because I can't deal with issues that I don't know exist. So what
Mhm.
are your fears? Okay.
Okay.
And if you're only working 45 hours a day, that's a part-time job. That's not a full-time job. I'm sorry.
Well, being a mother on top of that, single mother.
Okay. Um, that's a factor that is out of my
Big
realm
factor.
because I
Yeah.
don't have kids, so I don't understand that. Sherry has kids. You can talk to her about that. I don't understand that. So when I
Mhm.
work 16, 18-hour days. So
Yeah.
understand where I'm coming from there. If I'm not playing beach volleyball or playing sports or doing something or running or whatever, I'm working. So understand that I'm going to have certain expectations that
Mhm.
your business almost has to be running, 24 hours a day. And that's
Mhm.
why you need 3 assistants. Okay. If you're not willing to put in that work, then someone has to. Someone has to put in that commitment. Okay. I
Yeah.
don't mean to scare you with that, but that's my belief system. And
Mhm.
what I do, I don't consider work. I mean, the stuff that you're going to be doing, you shouldn't consider work, but because you're going to sub out or delegate everything you don't like to do, and you're going to keep the fun stuff.
Yeah. The other thing I had a question about was I saw one of the videos about the LinkedIn and advertising on there or connecting on there. And I know that you've asked
Advertising.
Sherry.
We don't advertise. We help people.
Oh, okay. That's
Advertising doesn't work.
okay. Or doing videos like Sherry had said you'd wanted her to do some videos, right?
Right. How do you
Yeah,
feel about
my
that?
yeah, I have some hesitation about that because when I signed up with this company, I have to be dedicated to them.
Okay.
And I don't know if I would be allowed to discuss another business on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, there are solutions to that that we can discuss next time. Or it could be one of your assistants is doing that.
All right.
Okay.
But I'm going to be straight up again. I don't have money to pay for an assistant.
Okay. Um, so I need to know, in order to advise you, I need to know your situation. I don't need to know it now. But it would help to know how much money you have to work with because I can't
Nothing.
work under false expectation.
Yeah, but that's why I'm being honest with you. I don't have anything.
Okay.
So
Uh,
it's better that we just be upfront from the beginning so we don't waste each other's time.
okay. Can you, so when someone says, I don't have anything, I don't believe them. Not because I think they're lying to me, it's because they don't know or don't understand the horsepower they have under their hood. And I see this every time I analyze businesses. Businesses say, well, Leo, I'm overdrawn on my bank account. But that doesn't mean they can't put together assets. They can't put together cash. I'll give you a quick example. A $5 million company, actually, this is one of the failures. This was an HVAC company. This is a long story, but you need to hear this right now. It took a long time for me to fly in and analyze the company. Finally, over a 3-week period, we landed, and he kept saying, "Well, no, I have a huge salary, and my business is doing $5 million in 4 short years. We are doing extremely well." When I flew in, we always do a forensic analysis of the business. When I flew in, uh, I kept saying, there's something wrong. You kept saying all the right things, but from your body language, I could tell there's something wrong. What's wrong? And he kept looking at his, skinny drawer on his desk, subconsciously. And I said, wait a minute, what's in your drawer? You keep looking at it. What's in there? He reluctantly opened it, and he pulled out a stack of envelopes this thick. And I said, okay, what's that? And he threw it at me. So I look at it. Oh, it's a check. Oh, it's an uncashed check. It has your name on it. Are they all like this? And he started tearing up. And he motioned yes. So why, you told me you had a great salary. Why are there so many uncashed checks, and how far back did this go? And through his tears, he said 3.5 years. So even though his business was growing to $5 million, yeah, and And he also said on the phone that one of the first employees was a bookkeeper because he wanted to keep his numbers straight. And then the bookkeeper suggested he hire an accountant because there was only so much she could do. Then the accountant quickly after, within a year, said, well, no, we need tax strategies. You need a tax lawyer, right? So 3 experts. And I'm thinking, okay, these people are employed by you full time. Why haven't they solved this problem? Excuse me. And I didn't even wait for an answer. I said, what time do these people come in? Oh, they're usually here at 9. And I said, no, they're not. Get on the phone to them. I want them here now. I want them here in 30 minutes. So sure enough, now we're sitting in the boardroom and they're in front of me. He introduced me, and I was, enough of that. I said, I looked at the bookkeeper and I said, did you get a paycheck last week? Did you get a paycheck last week? Did you get a paycheck last week? And they said, yeah, of course. Yeah, we worked, we got a paycheck. Did you cash your paycheck? Did you cash your paycheck? Did you cash your paycheck? And they're all dumbfounded and they're saying, yeah, of course we did. And I said, then I asked, well, when was the last time any of you made sure that the owner, the one taking all the risk here, cashed his check? Then the tax lawyer sprang up and said, well, Leo, you got to understand there's never money in the bank account. We have a cash flow issue. And I said, you have a cash flow issue? You have $5 million coming in each year. How is that a cash flow issue? That's not a cash flow issue. That's a cash retention issue. But you have $5 million coming in, right? You just need to be smarter as to how you pay your bills, right?
Sorry, I'm confused. Why didn't he cash the checks?
There was never money in the bank account.
The checks were payable to him?
To him. He was the owner. He was paying himself $150,000 a year. That's why he was happy. Except there was never enough money in the bank account for him
to
cash the checks. And
right.
That stacks, right?
Yeah.
So one of the first tasks was to figure out why, after doing $5 million in revenue, why there was never money in the bank account. And they had been dealing with this problem, for 4 years. And I said, can we agree this is a problem we tackle today, and we're going to have a solution by the end of the day? They all looked at each other and said, okay. And within 3 hours, not 4 years, 3 hours, we figured out the problem. 3 hours, literally, because we looked at their financials, we compared budgeted to actual, and the simple thing of comparing budget to actual, we figured out that every job he was doing, he was losing $1,250 on each job. So I said, close the company, just write a check for the job you're not going to do, and just give them $1,250 and be done with this, right? You're done in half an hour. Just write those checks and go home, right? Because the business was not working. The business, these people, the book accountant, the bookkeeper and accountant, obviously never done a comparable between budget and actual. I mean, it's so simple. 3 of them, right? So that's the first thing we fixed. You go, okay, I'll just raise my prices. No, you can't do that. Right? You can't do that. Make a long story short, we were working for them for about 11 months. And we were trying different projects, different things, and different strategies. Even though I told him not to raise his prices substantially, guess what he did? He raised his prices substantially. He started losing builders, right? And he goes, Leo, your advice doesn't make sense because now I'm losing builders. And I said, what did you do? I raised my prices, right? And the reason why I record everything is so I can go back and say, remember I told you on this date not to do that, right?
Yeah.
So again, to make a long story short, he was sabotaging his own business, unbeknownst to himself. He was sabotaging his own business because each time we'd put in a program, And I only found this out on the 11th month because I said, whatever we try and do, things just fall apart. So what I'm going to recommend and suggest that you do is you hire us as the interim CEO, and I'm going to come up there 3 days a week, and I'm going to turn this company around and get you to profitability. That's the quickest way we can do this. So sure enough, and I said, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to send out a letter to all your employees tonight, because tomorrow morning I'm there and they need to understand why I'm there. So he sent the email. All the employees come in at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm greeting everyone, and everyone is happy that this is happening finally, because he believes that his employees love him. His employees hate him because he was just mean.
Yeah.
He was just obnoxious. He would hang up on people. He would yell at people. He would just, he would have no patience for people. And yet he believed his employees loved him. So anyways, the employees saw this as a positive move, and he had over 40 employees, 40 trucks on the road. And so they welcomed this. Morale, productivity goes up that day because of this positive move. And over time, I'm working with people, I'm taking people to lunch, I'm going to job sites, I'm working with people and figuring out what the problems are, right? And one of the times, part of this process, I said, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to shadow you. And we're in his truck. And of course, he's getting a lot of phone calls because he's a micromanager. And he's yelling at people. This is how I found out he was yelling at people. This is how I found out he was lying to himself. He was yelling at people, and he would hang up. Then a second call happened, and he started yelling. So I saw a pattern. I hung up the phone. And he said, why'd you do that? I said, well, let's think about this. You yelled at the previous guy. You're yelling at this guy. Do you understand how you're building this culture? Yeah, but these guys are freaking idiots. Well, obviously, we need some training, right? And we suggested this is one of the things that failed miserably, to set up an internal training program. And he didn't want to do it because he felt if he trained these people, they're going to leave and become his competition. So he doesn't want to train them. Then I said, well, what if they stay and they're not trained, right? Isn't that even worse? So make a long story short, I was hired as the interim CEO. He agreed to it. I was surprised. And we started working, making some of these changes. Then all of a sudden I hear through the grapevine, because now I have all the employees' emails. Now they're reporting to me. I'm the CEO, right? And I'm hearing that he's doing some things that go against what we agreed upon. Then I immediately flew up there and I said, why are you doing this? This goes against what you told me you were going to do. Well, Leo, you got to understand, I had a chat with my pastor and he couldn't believe that I gave I put someone else in charge of my own company. And the pastor says, how can you do that? How can you give control to somebody else? And he wanted to reverse. So he was sending and talking to his employees saying he's reversing that policy. And people started to quit when they started hearing that rumor, right? And I said, then I called him on the carpet and I said, either you take advice from your pastor or you take advice from me, because it's conflicting. And by the way, how many businesses has your pastor designed and sold? And he's thrown back by that and says, well, none. He's a pastor, right? Do you see a problem there? And he couldn't see the problem there. And I said, literally, at the end of the day, either you take advice from your business advice from your pastor, or you take it from me, not both. You need a decision. And he said, I can't ignore my pastor. And I said, that's the answer. We're done. You are fired. Literally, you are fired. 2 weeks later, 50% of his employees quit. 2 weeks after that, he was bankrupt.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had designed a manufacturing facility to build ductwork and so on. We had done other businesses because he was paying too much for some of these services. Then we also found him a larger warehouse office space overlooking the highway with about 400,000 cars per day to give him frontage, to give him visibility. And by putting the 3 locations into one location, we reduced his rent by about 10 or 12%. So we're making a lot of positive moves. He lost everything.
Wow.
I still talk to him. He's still a good friend. And he's back working with his hands.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry for the long story, but and now I forget why I told you that story.
About listening to you.
Well, it's about surrounding yourself with great people.
Yeah, that I know as
All right.
well. Yeah.
But there was another reason why I brought up that story. Oh,
About the fears?
about fears, and he had a lot of fears. He had a lot of,
Yeah.
and he had a young family. He had 2 young children.
Yeah.
And the other sad part is one of his best employees was a tyrant. He would slam doors, he would punch holes in drywall
Oh
because
my
his jobs
gosh.
weren't ready. And this would all be done in front of his pregnant wife. And he would not fire him because he was his best employee. And it was throwing culture right out the window. Right. So if he had fired to send a message to the rest of the employee, the other productivity and morale would come up and more than compensate for the fact that you lost your best employee. Right? He couldn't see that. So
That's too bad.
mhm.
Yeah, I have to wind up because I've been off for an hour offline and there's eyes watching productivity.
Yeah, you
They
need
watch what you're doing.
to be a professional mouse jiggler. That's right, because
That's
you need
in
to
the
move
other
the mouse
room.
every once in a while, right?
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
it's a pleasure meeting you. Let's talk again in a
Too.
couple of days, early next week.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Have a good weekend.
Alexandra, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.